Hey guys, today we're going to have a look at ratios, specifically simplifying ratios. I'll start with a couple of examples, and then I'll leave you with an exercise you can finish off on your own. So let's start with this simple example, where I'm giving you a rectangle, which has been split into 9 smaller rectangles, and 3 of those rectangles are shaded in. Now, I've done this to show you how both ratios and fractions explain the proportions of a total. That is, they define the relationship between the different parts that make up the whole. So for this fraction, I would say that of this rectangle, the fraction which is shaded in gray is 3 out of a total of 9. Ratios, on the other hand, don't generally talk about parts of the total. They usually talk about one section of the total compared to the other section of the total. So I usually define my ratios in words to clarify what each part represents. So here I'm looking at the number of gray tiles as compared to the number of white tiles. So underneath the gray here, I'm going to write 3 because there's 3 gray tiles. And underneath the white, I'm going to write 6 because there's 6 white tiles. It's really important that you start by setting up your ratios in words when there are words to define the different sides of the ratio. So make sure that you put the numbers in the correct order. You don't want to put the 6 under the gray. There's 3 gray tiles and 6 white tiles. Now, I've got a ratio of gray to white, and I've got a fraction of gray tiles. Notice that they're very similar in some ways. 3 grays, 3 grays. However, this is over 9, which is the total, and this together makes 9. 3 plus 6 makes 9 as a total, right? Ratios can be simplified just the same way as fractions can, and we know how to simplify fractions. We use the highest common factor. That is, we divide both the top and the bottom by the highest number that we can divide them by, right? For this question here, 3 over 9, the highest common factor is 3. I can divide both the numerator by 3 and I can divide the denominator by 3. So if I go ahead and do that, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Same thing goes for the ratio, except our ratios are written sideways, and I answer below. So when I divide by the highest common factor, I divide each side by the highest common factor. Remember, this ratio was 3 to 6. So when I divide both sides by the highest common factor, and in this case it's also 3, I'm going to end up with a ratio of 1 to 2. Now, look at the diagrams that I've got up here. These two diagrams are exactly the same. They're the same shape, they're the same size, and I've even shaded in the same area. The only difference between them is that this one's been split into 9 smaller rectangles, and this one's only been split into 3 smaller rectangles. So that just shows that 3 out of 9 is the same thing as 1 out of 3. In the same way as our ratios, this one, which was 3 grays to every 6 white, is the same thing as saying the ratio of 1 gray to 2 white is the same. Now, some ratios are a little bit more challenging because they have more than 2 parts to it. Unlike fractions, which can only have a numerator and denominators, ratios could have any number of values which are compared to each other as a proportion. So here I've got 6 green tiles, 9 yellow tiles, and 12 purple tiles. So I make sure that I explain what my ratio represents. Green, yellow, and purple. And the number of greens go under the greens, number of yellows under the yellows, and number of purples under the purples. So that's 6 to 9 to 12. Now to simplify this ratio, I find the highest common factor and I divide all 3 parts of the ratios by that highest common factor. Looking at the numbers 6, 9, and 12, we should notice that they can all divide by 3. Looking at my diagram as well, I can see that I've got 3 different rows. The same number of green tiles, same number of yellow tiles, and same number of blue tiles in each of these rows. So I could divide all by 3. By doing that, I get 6 divided by 3 is 2, 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay. So let's get on to the exercise then. None of these questions actually have defined values. That is to say, I don't know if this is 3 boys to 6 girls, or 3 dogs to 6 cats. I don't know, so I can't write it in words. But I can go ahead and show my working. So copy the ratio, and underneath the ratio, write the simplified ratio. Show that 3 was divided by something to give the simplified ratio, and 6 was divided by the same value to give the simplified ratio. Okay? If you want to have some fun with this, I'll leave you with about a minute to work on this, and then I'll put up the answers. If you want to go ahead and work at your own pace, so slow it down, feel free to hit pause. Okay? Your minute's starting now. Okay, that was 1 minute. If you don't want to see the answers just yet, hit pause and keep working. But here come the answers. How far did you get, and did you get them all right? If you need more time to mark, just hit pause. But this is the end of our video. I hope it was helpful for you.